Lots of criminals and criminal activity can be the result of psychosis or a psychotic disorder which an individual may face. Although many could be due to frustration or maladaptation from a situation that somebody's in, such as holding up a corner store in order to pay for one's drug addiction, or perhaps to pay for their mother's medication, whatever they cannot afford. Or one may rob a general store, a food and convenience store, in order to acquire either food or other necessities that they may need. But in fact, many criminals are insane or do suffer from some sort of mental condition of any kind. People who suffer, as stated in Frank Schelliger's Criminology textbook, I like the way they put this actually, they suffer and they are out of touch with reality. We like the way that's stated. It's a good representation of exactly how a mental incapable mind would work. Um, Also, criminal suffering, they don't really have an opinion about the consequences of their actions. They could care less. And they also lack a lot of empathy for themselves, others, other humans, other animals. As we know, a lot of psychotic criminals start off with hurting or killing animals in the beginning of their lives. They simply, some may say they simply have no heart. They lack a sort of human connection. They are inhumane, so to say, which could lead to a very dangerous situation, which could be dangerous to them and others around them. An important category that the psychotic offender section talks about is schizophrenics. Schizophrenia is a mental condition. I'm sure many people have heard of it. Almost everyone has heard of it. It involves unusual personalities or perhaps multiple personalities, which goes hand in hand with multiple personality disorder. It can manifest and create very dangerous and unprecedented situations. So it's very, very dangerous. Most schizophrenics also suffer from hallucinations or delusions. They see and hear things that we don't see or hear, but these visions and thoughts are so close to their reality that they cannot make the difference between what is real to them and what is not. And now, for someone who doesn't suffer, it's very hard to try to understand what it's like to suffer from a condition such as this, to be able to see and hear things that aren't real. And it's hard to imagine for all of us, but it's very real and it's very sad. And a lot of people do suffer from this every day and continue to suffer every day in our world. A study in the textbook mentions 37% of male schizophrenics have already started a life of crime or have done something in that area, and 13% have already committed a violent crime before seeking help or visiting or had contact whatsoever with any psychiatric facility, whether it's a hospital, a ward, a medical clinic, anything like that. Um, and obviously, as one would assume, violence skyrockets when it is associated with substance abuse. So I urge anyone going into the medical profession or any medical profession, anyone in the medical field already, to take extreme precaution when prescribing patients with mental illness, especially schizophrenia, over-the-counter drugs. As we all know, over-the-counter drugs have been proven to be the most addictive of all the drugs, and it is very important to take precaution when prescribing these, as we don't know the situation a mental patient could find themselves in after having substance abuse. Another section that the book doesn't mention a lot about is kind of like a traumatic event causing psychotic disorder. The book mentions a little bit about PTSD and how that could lead to some sort of violent crimes. It talks about how a lot of people coming back from the wars, especially the Vietnam War, have actually committed violent crimes against their family or their wives because of their mental condition, even killing family members because they believe them to be Vietnamese enemies. And it just shows what a traumatic event, war or not war, could do to the human mind. I would like to talk about how any traumatic event in somebody's life could lead to a life of crime, such as being raised in an abusive household, being abused by your mother or father, being sexually abused by anyone in your family, and being raised without the proper guidelines to becoming a productive member of society. A lot of these can bash down a person, especially mentally, and convince them to start a life of crime. And it's very sad, but that's basically how the psychotic mind works and how people with mental illness turn toward a life of crime in the end.